Hello and welcome. My name is Thomas Kevin Dolan, the author, the writer of Little Fag, A Journey of Self-Acceptance and Healing. Today I'm going to read chapter 11, Triumph Over Shame. It begins on page 270 of my memoir. Humor returned first. A turkey figurine at a friend's Thanksgiving dinner with toothpicks protruding from its behind. I made an inappropriate joke. The strangers around the table nervously giggled. My fear is that I'd be shamed for an attempt at gay humor. Thankfully, I wasn't. They laughed. What I braved. One day you'll celebrate with people who will give thanks for all of who you are. You'll feel what it's like to be fully loved, shared the host of this Thanksgiving dinner. His mom, sister, partner, and the first man I ever fell in love with gathered around that dinner table. It was my first Thanksgiving as an out gay man in October of 1988. It had taken me 30 years to gather around a Thanksgiving table, not pretending to be straight. Up until that point in my life, only a part of me showed up for any holiday celebration. The man who invited me to this gathering was the first openly gay man I fell in love with. He literally crossed my path at the time when I was struggling to stay alive. His beauty was framed within a 6'5" body, wrapped in a tan that glowed like a honey nut tone. His smile pierced my soul, and I knew the moment I saw him, I had to meet him. We spent close to 6 years in a relationship and just celebrated 35 years of knowing one another. We each took a moment to share what we were most grateful for while all holding hands. I could feel the love as I stared at each new friend and said, I give thanks for being gay. I had come out only a month and a half earlier. At the heart of this gathering was the absence of my host's father, who was in a nearby hospital fighting for his life because of cancer. His mom reminded me of the importance of being surrounded by people who really know us, see us, and embrace all of who we are. With a gentle, grace-filled voice, she said, let us be your family this Thanksgiving. What warms my heart still, even as I reflect on a 34-year-old memory, is that those people who gathered on that day changed my life. Not only did they embrace and love me, but they also set the bar for my authenticity and freedom in my life, even though they really had no idea who I was. The entire world I believed was mine, which I'd left behind just months ago when I came out, was now gone. Remembering the year before, when I was married, gathered around my mother-in-law's dining room table with my wife, her brother, and his wife, I realized how absent I was. I'm now able to see the energy I expended just to stay unconscious and hope no one asked what I really wanted to be grateful for. I remember the emotional and intellectual overload from the entire out Thanksgiving dinner. I wanted to sop up every bit of wisdom this newfound family of choice had to offer me. I was in awe of how everyone present was exactly who they were. For the first time in my life, I had a reason to celebrate Thanksgiving. Today, I am present to the joy in my life that has risen from the story I made up that I could never be grateful or express thanks for who I am. It is a dynamic connected to the stigma of being in the closet. Although Thanksgiving is wrapped up in a Christian tradition of giving thanks to God, it is that same Christianity that has called for the death of gay people for 2,500 years. Not a great reason to celebrate if you're a gay person. I remember the closet being a cold, dark, and lonely place. A number of my friends still occupy seats at their Thanksgiving dinner tables, still feeling stuck inside. The only way I can help and support them is to be free from my own stuckness. What I braved was being the creator of the support I needed to fight for my my fight of inner homophobia and energetically speak up for all the fags, dykes, queers, homos, trans, queens, two-spirit folks, and labeled sinners that could not. I left family and found another family. I left one family and found my real family. They had my back. They helped me live out loud. They inspired me not to hide or lie, but to live in a way that allows my gay light to shine. I'll always remember the message I received on my first out Thanksgiving. We love you just the way you are. The unlearning. There is no way he should be allowed to play football at a Protestant school. All the other Dolan boys attended St. Francis, and he should be no different. Those were the closing words of a man known as the Dean of Canadian Broadcasters. It was a sports segment which regularly aired on Calgary television in 1973 called One Man's Opinion. I felt this intense pain in my chest after hearing his words. It was shaming. Shame is not my fault, but its impact on my life is my responsibility. What I could not get as a boy was that my parents were the dysfunctional ones. I knew of no one's failure but those attributed to me by grown-ups. My only guidance was that which helped me feel awful, shame about myself. On the first day of high school, I stood across the expanse of soccer fields leading to the school that my older siblings attended. I remember hearing a whisper come into my heart. It suggested, in the most loving way, that this was not the school for me to attend. Four Dolan boys had attended this school before me, and three more of my siblings were set to grace the halls of this school after me. Why on earth would I be hearing a whisper not to go here? I remember speaking to my oldest brother, who had graduated from St. Francis. He supported me in not attending it and instead going to a Protestant school across town. He thought it might be a better place for me to play football. I thought it might be a better place for me to graduate. Mom was a convert. She converted to Catholicism in order to marry Dad and was not the least bit happy about her boy going to a Protestant school. Converts were usually the staunchest of Catholics. My oldest brother was able to get me an appointment with the head football coach at the Protestant school. Although I desperately wanted to honor this whisper's wisdom, the presence I was feeling from my brother, my mom, the Dolan legacy at the old high school, and the Dean of Canadian Sportscasters was overwhelming. Perhaps I should just attend the Catholic school, let the whisper go unheard, and maybe the pressure in my chest would disappear. I would learn decades later that when we are ashamed, the primary physical manifestation of that shame shows up in our chests. It all made sense. I learned not to deny the shame or finesse it, but face it, own it, and incorporate it into myself. After all, they are only painful memories, not imperious demons. They cannot hurt me again as they did before, though I may believe they can, for I am not as vulnerable as I was when I was smaller. Today, I'm not done in by the shaming experience the world offers me. I returned to the Catholic school after hearing the end of the Sportscasters 2-minute segment. That Catholic quarterback has no right playing with Protestants. Shame had won a victory. A year later, in grade 11, I left the Catholic high school. I played football with the Protestants at Viscount Bennett and graduated in 1977. The old high school would see 4 younger Dolans attend, but never graduate from it. The Dean of Canadian Sportscasters died, as did his legacy of shame. The unlearning for me was to let go of owning the shame. Learning to share my experience of shame is my way of forming a strong and rejuvenating tie with others. Plus, it allows me to be courageous and vulnerable. My sense of shame is a channel of empathy and pathos to the heart of others. Owning the universality of my shame helps me both cry and lighten up about it. There is no more powerful bond than that of shared shame transformed into a bond of understanding and mutual support for another's healing. Today I have shame. It does not have me. It was first a fantasy to go to a school, the high school that all my siblings went to. And for that year I was there, all I ever heard was, oh, you're a Dolan, another Dolan. And of course, the broad brushstroke for Dolans was they played sports. You're going to play football. Maybe you'll play basketball, right? Maybe you'll wrestle. Maybe you'll run track. What I really wanted people to say to me is, which of the Dolans are you? And be recognized at that time for being Tom Dolan. But that wasn't it. Oh, you're the brother of Rick. Oh, you're the brother of John. Oh, you're the brother of Jim. And with that came, and you're the brother of Tim. With that came these stories that were not all that complimentary for some of those guys. They were rough and tough, right? And they would inspire me at 3 years old to say to my mom, I don't want to be like my big brothers. That was my coming out to my mom, right, in 1961. So there was no room, right, for me. And ultimately, I was not making room for me. So although I attempted to kind of bolster some courage to leave in grade 10, the sportscaster, my mom, and probably just this lack of courage, this fear. And I would sit really gently with myself after all of that unfolded and thought, even in grade 11, the courage that I mustered, right, to leave, right, all of my friends and go to a brand new school was at the time the epitome of courageous. And when all the dust finally settled, and I think I shared with you the story of my teacher in grade 5 who I walked with on the playground of St. Peter's Elementary and Junior High School, who looked down at me and said, Tommy, at some point in time, you may want to consider surrounding yourself with people who are different than your family. This was the first foray into connecting with folks who were different, right? At Viscount Bennett, they were different than the folks that I was familiar with at St. Francis. Not that they were bad people, but ultimately my call was to switch up the energy of who I was going to be impacted by. And the folks at Viscount Bennett were just so amazing, right? I can feel the emotion well up in me when I begin to think of the gifts that they gave me. Not just the teachers, but these new friends who would change the course of my life, who would inspire me to go to university. I remember the principal of the school. His name is Roy Dow. And of course, my behavior took a little while to change. At St. Francis in that first year, I skipped 10 English classes. And not only did the teacher in the class never say anything, but the administrators of the school never called me out. So it was a bit of a train wreck for me. So of course that behavior I would attempt at Viscount. And I remember with a couple of friends, us skipping a class. And immediately I was hauled into the assistant principal's office. And this assistant principal, his name is Jim Keane, would sit with me really gently, really lovingly, and call me into the benefits of staying in class. Not call me out, not shame me, but also being very clear with me that behavior is not tolerated at Viscount Bennett. And then a little while later, as I was walking down the hall, Roy Dow, who I mentioned, the principal, came to me and said, I understand that you bumped into a little bit of a challenge with class attendance. And Mr. Keane had a conversation with you. He said, do you have any sense of what your life would be like if you weren't in this school? And of course, at that time, I was completely overwhelmed with the question, and I probably had no answer for him. But today, because I'm sharing with you the lesson I got from that conversation with him, I would have been the saboteur in my life, right? It would have been a carryover of all the old behaviors from St. Francis. But it was that one loving conversation from the assistant principal and the reminder from his boss, the principal, in the hallway to gently acknowledge the courage I'd found to actually not do that again. So a defining moment in my life, a defining moment, right? And I can still, as I close my eyes, I can see the soccer field, I can see St. Francis in the distance, and I can feel the whisper, right, from God, the divine, the universe, that this was not the school for you. So the 3 years I would spend at Viscount Bennett would be defining for who it is that you're hearing today. There's some folks that I've reconnected with because of this book. The linebacker from one of the stories, his name is Dave Duncan. We hadn't seen each other for 47 years. But because of this book, because of these stories, I got a chance to reconnect with him. Another gift from Viscount Bennett. So I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful. And yet I'm reminded that what continues for me, right, is the honoring of this whisper. Because it is gently incessant. It will always be with me. And I will do everything in my power, right, to honor that voice. Because it is what allows me to experience and learn the lessons I need to learn in this lifetime. I'm so grateful for my time at Viscount Bennett. But most importantly, I'm grateful for the version of me, the grade 11 version of me, who actually listened to that whisper and did something with it.